go for a walk, shall we? The good part about me walking this way is that the sun won't be shining too much into the lens, but it's incredibly bright and I have to squint because I don't have my sunglasses. So today I was feeling some stuff, and I wanted to make this video a long time ago, but I never really remembered to do it, and also sometimes I had little to no motivation to film. But maybe if I at least walk outside, maybe if I at least try to just go with the motions, just give it a try today, see what happens. Maybe good things will happen, I gotta try that every now and then, or if not, maybe even more often, And I'm just gonna talk about stuff, stressing, stressing over certain things, overthinking, inside the mind of an overthinker, yours truly, and yeah, I guess I'll just give that a go. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always been told, like the older I get, I guess the more responsibility I have, which is obviously true, I do way more chores now than I did back when I was like 9, 10, 11, 12, But I feel like, I've also been conditioned by, my parents and somewhat by society to try to, achieve things and to be nice and, successful. I remember back when I was going into 3rd grade, my parents were somewhat strict with me when it came to trying to, get good grades and stuff. I wasn't allowed my video games during the week. I also wasn't allowed to watch anything that wasn't educational, which to some extent I do think is somewhat understandable. Looking back, I do get it, that they wanted me to succeed, they wanted to push me, and I thank them for that. I love my parents, they're cool, they're awesome, they're super supportive, but I feel like to another extent it was also, to me, or at least the way that I portrayed it, it was somewhat toxic, God, it's so fucking loud, man. Yeah, when it came to me and like school and stuff, I felt like this very huge need to succeed and to improve and to get better. And I guess maybe to some extent it was a little bit too toxic towards myself. I had these very high expectations for myself, and I'm pretty sure that my parents did too, especially my mom. But I remember back when I was in like back when I was in the 3rd grade, I was taking some math test. I thought I did kind of good on it. Fuck, I didn't. Hell no. Got a 55, and I remember just staring at that, and I instantly just broke down in tears that day. That is the earliest time in my life that I remember ever beating myself up. That always stuck with me. And then the year after that, I got 70 on another test, which I thought I was gonna fucking ace because it's freaking multiplication, and I'm kind of good at that shit sometimes. But no, I ended up failing that too, and I started crying over it, and just, it's just stuff like that, like I had very high expectations for myself. I feel like that was partly on me, but then also maybe, but maybe also the way that I was brought up. So I can kind of see why I kind of am the way that I am. But the whole like beating myself up always kind of just like stuck with me. Like throughout the years, I remember like every single day back in 5th grade, we would always end with math, and I was always the one who always felt like I was constantly behind, I was trying over and over and over. I just kept failing numerous times, Everybody else understood the math, or at least that's what I felt, and then I was the only one who didn't get it. Same thing happened with earth science back when I was in the 7th grade. Same thing happened with living environment back in the 8th grade. You get the point, I always felt like compared to my other classmates, I was always that person who was very, very far behind, I felt like to some extent, maybe some of my teachers were also a little bit hard on me, but I mean, that was more in a positive way to push myself, so I'm not really gonna hold that against them because they're good teachers, they're not bad people, they're just doing their job, But I feel like to some extent, my whole mentality towards school and me trying to succeed and then, me crying over it, if it's like the end of the world, really, really stuck with me, and it eventually began to branch out into other things, and it just became really toxic and just really, really sad, Like even now at the age of 19 years old, I still beat myself up over the stupidest things, And I've gone to become conditioned to overthink everything, Because the thought of failure just freaking pisses me off, It makes me upset, it makes me angry, and I don't really want to bother doing that. It like makes me feel sorry for myself, and I just don't want to bother, Like, I never really liked, I don't always like failure, Because like I always saw failure as a bad thing, this whole end of the world. I'm repeating myself because I was having this reflex with those people behind me, but I don't give a fuck. I'm still going. I was conditioned kind of by myself and by other people to try and, succeed. And God, my wrist hurts. But over a while, it just became super toxic, and I just became hard on myself for practically like everything I did. And it was so it was so depressing, you know? And I look back then, I'm like, wow, like I really did that, you know? And after a while, I began to become super insecure about certain things, and it just really began to take a toll on my mental health. But since I'm kind of starting to ramble now, I'll just get into the overthinking part after I walk along this path. I think that after consistently failing by consistently failing test after test after test all those years, you know, I feel like maybe failure just kind of became something that was, I guess, in a way to me somewhat inevitable, and I was afraid of it happening. So this is where my overthinking comes in. I thought that maybe if I thought a little bit more than usual, maybe if I tried a little bit harder and I actually tried to, like, you know, think and analyze things more than I probably should, that I thought that maybe, just maybe, I'd be able to get the right answer, you know? I thought that me working extra hard, trying to figure something out would work, but that's not always the case, you know? I'm slowly beginning to realize that me taking myself so seriously and trying to work so hard is literally the path to freaking destruction, you know? I always think that I have to work hard to succeed, but yet sometimes I still end up, you know, flopping on my face. Not literally, more like figuratively. Or on my shoulder, which still hurts because I pushed myself too hard one time, and I might need physical therapy for that. Yeah, all on me. But as I began to overthink more, as I began to overanalyze more, I thought it was going to help me. I thought it was going to make things better. And I thought that, hey, you know, if I try even harder than before, it's going to work. But it's not, you know. And if anything, it just kind of put me into this whole downward spiral, you know. I began to doubt myself. I began to question my capabilities, you know. I get so caught up, you know, fighting these thoughts in my head that it makes it hard for me to physically do things in this reality that we live in. You know what I mean? Like, had I not overthought so much, had I spent more time, you know, focusing on what I can control as opposed to what I can't, you know, maybe I'd actually be filming more, maybe I'd be executing more, maybe I'd be doing that, you know? It's finally coming back to me now, you know? Like, all this overthinking, all this working hard, like, don't get me wrong, it is great to work hard. It is great to, you know, to put work into things that you want to do so they can work. But, you know, the difference between, you know, working hard, working too hard, and then just being, you know, just absolutely lazy or just not feeling like it, you know? Sometimes you're burnt out, you don't want to do anything, I get it. Maybe you're just lazy, you know, you don't want to do it. I mean, hey, you know, there's a lot of differences between that stuff. And I feel like it just kind of just put me on a path towards destruction. I'm trying so hard, like, not to repeat myself, but I'm just trying to, just say it over and over so that way I can process it and just hope that what I'm saying to you guys just makes sense, you know? But in a way, the habits that I've built over the years haven't really done me any good, you know? I've built up so much anxiety. I constantly stress myself out. It was even to the point where today, where I finally got the inspiration to make this video, I was really stressing over going out with my friends to go eat, you know, at our restaurant, you know. I was stressing over it, the tiniest thing, when it's literally not the end of the world, you know, as if I haven't had that type of food that we were going to get before, you know what I mean? I didn't have to stress out about it so much, but, you know, I'm so afraid of taking one horrible misstep that's going to, you know, probably what I think ruins the rest of my life, that even the smallest little threat I see as a giant pathogen virus ready to take me over, you know, figuratively. But yeah, it's kind of the reason why I am the way that I am. I can definitely say to a good extent though that when it came to me overthinking, that it definitely did deteriorate my self-esteem, you know. I can say to a good extent that I am very insecure, you know. I feel like I've kind of begun to realize this more and more, you know. I always cannot help but feel like sometimes that, you know, in the back of my head, you know, maybe even sometimes when making these YouTube videos that, you know, like, am I doing this for me so that way, you know, I can grow an audience and connect with people and try to make people's lives better? Or am I just doing this, you know, just for some gratitude from other people and some likes and subscribers, when in actuality that's not going to help me, you know, it's not going to make me feel better, you know. All of that external factor stuff is not going to fix what's in here, you know what I mean? I've become more consciously aware of that as time has gone by, you know. But like I just keep asking myself, like honestly, like I cannot help but feel because I'm overthinking that like I'm consistently just messing up all the time. Like I can't help but feel as if like somewhere, somehow, some part during my day, I made a mistake, when it doesn't even really matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to take myself so seriously. I don't have to take life so seriously. I mean, shit, I'm in my youth. What the fuck am I stressing over? But I mean, hey, with society and the way that some things are, it's not abnormal for me to feel the way that I do. Even people at my age can feel stress and anxiety and depression. Not that I'm feeling all of those. I'm not self-diagnosing myself, you know? But I could definitely say to a good extent that, I'm human and that, it's not the end all be all if I make a mistake. But sometimes I can't help but play these certain instances or these certain scenarios over and over in my head, wishing that they could have gone differently. Like there is that fear of me not having control. There is that fear of things not going my way. Which is why sometimes when it comes to me, sometimes I have a hard time with trust issues. Sometimes I have a hard time, with, trusting people, because I'm afraid that people are going to walk all over me sometimes, like how they did in the past. This is probably like 10, 5, 6, 7 years ago. As of now, it's never really like that because I have a good support group of friends and family who really do care about me. So I thank them for that. But I could definitely say that the way that I overthink, the way how, I am insecure is to a good extent sending me on a path towards destruction. And there have been times where I've thought that, maybe I'm just setting up or maybe I'm making some life of failure. But the truth is I haven't even started. Like I've always felt the pressure to have everything all figured out, but I've heard people say that you're young, you're not supposed to have everything all figured out. So maybe I just gotta take it easy, and just take the long road. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So just positive stuff like that, and maybe there is hope for me, and for anyone else who's going through stuff like this. I know that I'm not alone, though sometimes it does feel that way when it's really not. I want to think that the whole entire world is against me when it's not really against me. It's just me against me. And I feel like me having the conscious awareness to realize that is probably the first step to me realizing how to turn my life back around. I think it really does start with accountability. I'm listening to Gary Vee a lot, and I think he's right. The ability for me to hold myself accountable and for me to say, hey, maybe this isn't the path, maybe this is. As opposed to it being like this, gonna be this the whole entire time. But that's okay. I think I'm slowly beginning to realize that this life has both good and bad in it. Despite, some bad things happening to me, throughout this year, I mean, hey, I'm still standing, I'm still alive, I'm still young and healthy. There's always a chance to change. And, I think there is hope for me. So, yeah, maybe life isn't so bad after all. Or at least, I'm beginning to realize that, and that's a great thing.